she's an uptown, get around, anything goes, girl. Girl, she's a hardcore candy store, give me some more, girl. Girl, she'll make you take her to the club, but then she leaves with her friends. She likes to stay late at the party, cause the fun never ends. And all the clothes are on the floor, and all the records are scratched. She's like a one-way ticket, cause you can't come back. Say, hey, you want her, but she's so mean. Oh, why don't you let her go? Yeah, you want her, but she's so mean. Oh, why don't you let her go? You never know that if you don't shut your mouth, she'll take.
Okay, hi there. Today, for pre-calculus, I am going to be covering parabolas and sketching the graphs, vertex and intercepts. So, this is kind of similar to some of the stuff we've done before, so hopefully this isn't going to be too much of a reach for you guys. I've got plugging in 0 for x and 0 for y. If I plug in 0 for x, I get the y-intercept, and if I plug in 0 for y, I get the x-intercept. So x equals 0 will give me the y-intercept. Y equals 0 gives me the x-intercept. And we start there, and then I'm going to do a quick graph. Hopefully you also realize that if a is negative, then the parabola opens down. A is what's in front of the x squared. If a is positive, it opens this way. If a is negative, then it opens upside down. Okay. And remember, a is, if I put it in standard form, it's ax squared plus bx plus c is standard form, okay? And we will be doing some work with that today. All right, so anyway, back to this. I plug in 0 for x, right? We'll do the easy one first. Y equals 36 minus 1/4 times 0 squared. Well, this whole thing, that 0 squared is 0, 0 times 1/4 is 0. That's all going to be 0, so y equals 36. A little trickier if you plug in 0 for y. I get 36 minus 1/4 x squared. I'm going to bring the 1/4 x squared to the other side. If I add 1/4 x squared to both sides, I get 36 equals 1/4 x squared. Next, I'm going to multiply by 4 to get rid of that. And I get x squared equals 144. And then I take the square root of both sides. Remember, and you do a plus or a minus of 12. All right, and those are my x-intercepts. So that's plus or minus 12. All right, now I can do a quick graph here. Not going to be too fancy. So I know it's hitting the x-axis at negative 12 and positive 12, and it's going to hit the y-axis at 36. It probably doesn't look like it, but we're going to say that's 36. And then I'm doing my parabola. A is negative, so it's opening down. It's going up. And I think it's easier to move the point than it is to move the parabola. All right, there we go. So now it hits 12 and negative 12. Okay, and it does this one. Since there's no b, it'll actually, the y-intercept will be the right on the vertex. So anyway, next one. Once again, there's no b. Your vertex would be negative b over 2a. The x-coordinate will end up being 0. So if I plug in 0 for x and 0 for y, so this one's going to be y equals negative 12. You can go straight there real quick. That whole front thing is 0, which leaves me with negative 12. The other one is a little harder because I go 0 equals 1/3 x squared minus 12. I'm going to add 12 to both sides. And I get 12 equals 1/3 x squared. Next, I multiply by 3. I get 36 equals x squared. Oh, that's nice because when I take the square root, I'll get a whole number, plus or minus 6. Okay. And that's what I get over here. Okay, so once again, quick graph. A is positive in this one because 1/3 is positive, so it's going to open up. Okay, it's going through 6 and -6, and it's going through -12 over here. We said it's opening up, so it's going to go this way and this way. Oops, I missed. Try again. There we go. Close enough. Okay, and that's what your quickie graph will look like. All right. This one, a little trickier. Let's see, x equals 0, y equals 0. If I plug in x equals 0, I get 0 plus 3 squared minus 5. So that's 9 minus 5, which is 4. So when x is 0, y is 4. And when y is 0, I get x plus 3 squared minus 5. And if I add 5, so this one's kind of tricky because I don't, instead of like doing that whole foiling that thing out, I'm thinking that this one's going to be easier if I square root both sides, which will give me the square root of 5. Notice how there's no addition or subtraction outside of the radical. So if I subtract 3, I get -3. That's plus or minus root 5 equals x. Okay. So that's what I get over here. 3 plus or minus root 5. Okay, so instead of doing 3 plus or minus, we want decimals because I want to be able to see where that actually hits the graph, okay? Which means if you punch those into your calculator, you get -0.76 and -5.2, all right? Square root of 5, is a decimal, and it's 2.23, okay? So, I just wanted to quickly remind you guys that this is vertex form up here, okay? Hopefully you've seen this. I know I've shown it to you before, but let me put it up again. That if you have x minus h to the second power plus k, the vertex of that parabola will be hk, which means if I'm looking at an equation like this one, my vertex here for this equation will be the opposite sign of what I see inside the parentheses, so that's going to be -3. That one stays the same, which is -5. So there's my vertex of this parabola, and now I've got a whole bunch of points I can graph. Okay, so we go down here, make my quick graph. Okay, so -3, -5. I should make this longer. We'll say the vertex is down here, and it's crossing the x-axis, the y-axis at 0, 4. Which is going to be way up here. And it's crossing the x-axis at -5.2. And over here at -0.76. Okay, so I'm going to put my parabola in there now. So it should go like this. And go up here and hit there. Okay, and there's your quick graph. All right, next one. This one, once again, if I plug in 0 for x, I get 2 squared is 4, 4 plus 7 is 11. The other one, if I plug in 0 for y, change colors here. x minus 2 squared plus 7. All right, next, let's see. So I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. I get negative 7 equals x minus 2 squared. And then I'm going to take the square root of both sides, and I get plus or minus 7 equals x minus 2 root 7. Ooh. So this one's interesting because I get the square root of negative 7, okay, which really there is none. So we're going to say there's no y-intercept, okay? So that one's got none. All right. Now let's see. What's the vertex of this parabola? Since they gave it to us in vertex form, it'll be minus 2 and plus 7, except it's going to be positive 2 and positive 7. A is positive also because there's an A implied 1 in front of there. That's A, which means this is going to open up. So if I draw my quick graph over here, and my vertex is at 2, 7, which is here, take my word for it, and it opens up, goes like this, and it hits the x-axis at 11, but it never hits the, sorry, it hits the y-axis at 11, but doesn't actually hit the x-axis at all. So that's why that makes sense, okay? All right, so there's that one. All right, so here, I guess I'm relabeling all this stuff again. F of x equals a times x minus h squared, where the vertex is hk. If a is positive, it opens up. If a is negative, it opens down. And if ab, if I put it in standard form, that's this. This one's called vertex form. Okay, so this time we're going to be, excuse me, finding the equation of the parabola where the vertex is 2, 5 and passes through 0, 0. So I need 3 things. I need h, I need k, and I need a. Okay, so vertex, I've already got the h's there. Whoops, shouldn't put x. That's h. This is k. So I've already got 2 of them. I can plug that in already with the 2 and the 5. Now I need to find out what a is, which means, you know, they all fall into this form, okay? And I got a couple of points. I can plug in h is 2, k is 5, and I'm trying to find what a is. Now the other thing I can do is I can use that point and plug those values in, the 0, 0 that is. This is the x, this is the y. So the x goes here, the y goes here. And now I can figure out what a is, and then I can write down my answer, okay? So 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 squared is 4, so I get 4a plus 5 equals 0. And with some quick algebra there, you find out that a is negative 5/4. So now I've got the 3 things I need, and I can write down my answer, okay? Pull it all together and go, that I'm doing f of x here. Yeah, I guess I'm doing f of x equals a, negative 5/4, times x minus h, which is 2, squared plus k is 5. And there's the answer, okay? And that's how you do these kind of problems. Yep, all right. 6. Same idea. I need h, I need k, and I need a. H is 3, k is negative 1. I'm getting it from there. And then, so I can use my equation. y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. Start plugging in values here. So the h and the k go minus 3 and negative 1, either minus 1 or plus negative 1. Either way, it doesn't matter. Here's a. Now I'm going to use that point for the 0, 2. 0 is the x, 2 is the y. Okay, and now I can solve this. This is negative 3. 0 minus 3 is negative 3. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. So I get 9a plus negative 1 is 2. And if you quickly solve that, I get 3 equals 9a. Then a equals 1/3. If you reduce 3/9 is 1/3, okay? I think I took some liberties and skipped a few steps. All right, so my answer is y equals, or f of x equals, let's stay true to the a, which is 1/3, x minus h is 3, plus k is negative 1. And there's the answer, okay? Number 7, I'd like you to try this one. It's the same thing, it's just I put it on a graph, okay? But it's the exact same thing as the last problem with different numbers, okay? So I'd like you to find the equation. I forget, I was kind and I gave you the answer over there. So you can go check it out if you want. All right, so the equation, this one, we're going for standard form. Okay, so if I gave you the equation with the polynomials with the given roots, which is the same as the zeros, okay, which means x equals 0, x equals 2, x equals 7. You know, what goes in those parentheses? You remember when you had these and solved it, went the other way? You know, you quickly found out that this was, x, this was x minus 2, this was x minus 7. Okay, remember that's the opposite signs in there? That's an equal sign, a lousy one. But okay, so what I want to do is multiply all three of those things together. What I'm getting at, so if I had 0 equals x times x minus 2 and x minus 7, if I gave you that and asked you to solve it, you come up with these three answers right here. We're going the other direction now and trying to get the polynomial, okay? Now, I would actually just put it like that and be done, except it says standard form, so we're kind of stuck. We got to actually FOIL or box it out. So if I use FOIL here, I get x squared minus 9x plus 14, and then I'm going to multiply that times x. So I'm going to get x to the third minus 9x squared plus 14x, and that should be the answer. Yep, that's it. All right. This one's got 4. All right, so this one is where x equals negative 1, x equals 1, x equals 2, and x equals 3. So I got x plus 1, x minus 1, x minus 2, and x minus 3. And then I'm going to multiply all those together. Now, some things to look for. It's good to multiply those together because that's an easy one. That's a difference of 2 squares, you know. So when I multiply those together, I get x squared minus 1. Life's already much easier there. If I multiply this one out, these two here, I'm going to get x squared minus 5x plus 6. Okay. You can do FOIL or box by now, hopefully. What you get for the middle term would be negative 2x and negative 3x, and then you add those together. I should do the steps out. Plus 6. Okay. All right, and then the last thing you're going to do is multiply this. I kind of like box for this one when I'm doing a 2 by 3 over here. Here's x squared minus 5x plus 6, and here's x squared minus 1. So I get x to the fourth. Remember, add the exponents. Negative x squared minus 5x cubed positive 5x. 6x squared and negative 6, and then I can add them all together, combining like terms. I got 1x to the fourth. I got minus 5x to the third. I like to keep them in order. The highest exponent, then the second highest. I got 2x squareds, so that's plus 5x squareds, plus 5x minus 6, and that should be the answer. Yep. All right. So this one. I'm going to put these two together, and I'm going to put these two together, and I'll show you why. So that's x plus 3 times x minus 3. Then there's going to be that x minus 1 and x plus 1. Okay, and then I got this extra x also, which is going to be there from the 0, right? The 0 means it's a regular x. All right, now if I go and do difference of two squares, that's x squared minus 9 times x. This one, that will be x squared minus 1. This ain't so bad. All right, now if I take these two and I FOIL them together, I get x to the fourth. That's the first terms. Outside is negative x squared. Inside is negative 9x squared, and the last one is negative 9 times negative 1 is positive 9. Okay. Make sure I make mistakes. No, looks good. All right, so now I can combine the middle two terms. That gives me negative 10x squared plus 9x to the fourth, and now I'm going to multiply all of them by x, and I'll get my last answer, final answer of x to the fifth minus 10x to the third plus 9x, and that is standard form. Not as bad as I thought it was going to be. All right. 11. Woohoo! Getting there. Because it's got these square roots in here. Now, believe it or not, what you did over here was you went, x equals 1, and then you subtracted 1 from both sides to get, equals 0. So you got x minus 1 equals 0. That's how we got that x minus 1, okay? If I went over here, I could go the 1, if I combine them, you get plus or minus the square root of 3. That'll equal x, okay? And I know that's maybe this isn't the only way to do this problem, but it's the way I'm doing it right now. So I'm going to kind of go backwards and solve it, the way I did the last one. So if I subtract 1 from both sides, I get plus or minus the square root of 3 equals x minus 1, okay? And then, remember, if I'm going backwards, I'm trying to, I gave you a couple of these earlier in the video. If I square both sides, I get rid of that radical, right? And I get 3 equals x minus 1 squared. And then, if I subtract, if I FOIL this out, I get x squared minus 2x plus 1 equals 3. And then subtract 3 from both sides. I'll get this x squared minus 2x minus 2, okay? And then I've got to do that, and I got this leftover x minus 1 here that I need to multiply this times, okay? And this is going to give me my final answer, where I'm going to get, let's see, if I do box x minus 1, x squared minus 2x minus 2, I get x to the third, negative x squared, negative 2x squared, positive 2x, negative 2x, and positive 2. All right, so if I combine some like terms here, I can combine those two together. X to the third minus 3x squared plus 2. And there's the answer. Okay, I know that one's a little tricky. I would like you to try this one here. So remember, this is it can be your regular x. And you're going to do the same kind of thing. Go x plus or minus the root of 5 equals x, and see if you can come up with that polynomial, okay? And I'll tell you what, I'll be a nice guy and show you what the answer is down here. It's x to the third minus 4x squared minus x is your answer. Okay? All right, so that's all I got for today. I'm going to close it out with a little bit more music. You guys have a great night.
She's an uptown, get around, anything goes, girl. Girl, she's a hardcore candy store. Give me some more, girl. Girl, she's got a way.